The city was a skeleton, Nuremberg. Once the stage for the Nazi faith, vast stadiums and torchlit cathedrals for a 1,000-year religion. In the autumn of 1945, it was a necropolis. 9/10 of the medieval old town was gone, heaps of shattered brick and twisted steel. The air smelled of damp plaster, cold ash, and a faint sweetness of decay. Winter was coming. The Trümmerfrauen women of the rubble picked through the ruins for kindling, for scraps of food, for anything that could keep life going in a city of the dead. Amid this total desolation, one complex stood nearly intact, as if by miracle or by the deliberate accuracy of Allied bombs, the Palace of Justice. A massive neo-Romanesque block, towers and facades unbroken, 600 rooms ready for a new purpose. Here, the victors would not stage executions, nor a show trial. They chose something more radical, to put the machinery of genocide on trial under law. A paradox. To apply the cold logic of the courtroom to a crime beyond language, a crime so vast it required a new word, genocide. The world watched. Was this victor's justice, revenge in judicial robes? Or a necessary, risky attempt to draw a line, to declare that some acts cut their authors off from the human community? On 20 November 1945, the International Military Tribunal, IMT, convened in Courtroom 600. A new room, dark wood panelling, bright lights for cameras, heat pooling under the lamps. On the right sat 21 defendants, once masters of Europe, in 2 rows, listening through headsets in 4 languages. 4 counts were read. Conspiracy, crimes against peace, war crimes, crimes against humanity. The American Chief Prosecutor, Justice Robert H. Jackson, stepped to the lectern. The wrongs which we seek to condemn and punish have been so calculated, so malignant, and so devastating that civilization cannot tolerate their being ignored, because it cannot survive their being repeated. That 4 great nations, flushed with victory and stung with injury, stay the hand of vengeance, and voluntarily submit their captive enemies to the judgment of the law, is one of the most significant tributes that power has ever paid to reason. Is other word, was of not the prosody, is word first. The trial began. One man would not see it through, Robert Ley, head of the German Labour Front. Unstable, alcoholic, fanatical. The American prison psychologist Douglas Kelly suspected long-term brain injury. Before further evaluation, on 24 October 1945, Ley hanged himself in his cell. The trial went on 1 defendant short. The dominant presence in the dock was one Hermann Göring, father of the Gestapo, chief of the Luftwaffe, architect of the 4-year plan, for much of the war, Hitler's designated successor, captured, bloated, and addicted to paracodeine. He was forcibly detoxed in custody, thinner, mind sharpened. He treated the trial as his final stage, managing co-defendants, passing notes, demanding a united front. He believed he could win. Beside him, Rudolf Hess, former deputy Führer, claiming amnesia since his 1941 flight to Scotland, a ghost at his own trial. Joachim von Ribbentrop, foreign minister, the signer of the pact with Stalin that sealed Poland's fate, cold, arrogant, despised even by Göring. Then the generals, Wilhelm Keitel, head of the OKW La Keitel, the lackey. His single plank, orders are orders. He signed the Commissar order, signed night and fog, affixing the army's signature to the machinery of annihilation. Alfred Jodl, operations chief more capable, but also hiding behind just a soldier. In the back row, the faces of terror. Ernst Kaltenbrunner, chief of the RSHA umbrella to the Gestapo SD and Einsatzgruppen, he denied, but his signature lay thick on death warrants. Alfred Rosenberg, the party's philosopher. Hans Frank, the butcher of Poland, undone by his own diaries. Wilhelm Frick, legal architect of the Nuremberg laws. Julius Streicher, the hate-monger of Der Stürmer, posing a question: can words be a crime against humanity? The trial lasted 216 days. Its case rested not only on witnesses, but on the paper colossus the Nazi state left behind orders conferences, decisions marching toward aggressive war and industrial murder, the heaviest moment did not come on paper. On 29 November 1945, prosecutors screened Nazi concentration camps: Bergen-Belsen, Dachau, Buchenwald. Images without precedent: bulldozers pushing mountains of naked corpses, living skeletons, gas chambers and crematoria, piles of hair, children's shoes, eyeglasses. The courtroom fell silent. From that day, in global public memory, the Holocaust acquired an unmistakable visual language. In March 1946, Göring took the stand, clever, quick, unrepentant. In exchanges with Jackson, no trial lawyer by trade, Göring sometimes outmaneuvered him, delivering set-piece defenses of the Reich. But it was a hollow victory. Evidence overwhelmed, and the British prosecutor, Sir David Maxwell Fyfe, was colder, tighter. The just following orders defence collapsed. From Nuremberg emerged a principle: the duty to obey ends where the order is criminal. The giver and the doer share responsibility. On 30 September 1946, the defendant spoke last words: Göring defiant, Frank the penitent. Keitel, I believed, I obeyed, and I was mistaken. Streicher ranted. Sokol pleaded innocence, the banality of evil in full view. On 1 October 1946, judgments: death: Ribbentrop, Keitel, Kaltenbrunner, Rosenberg, Frank, Frick, Streicher, Sokol, Jodl, Seyss-Inquart. Göring, also condemned, but would not reach the gallows. Life: Hess, Funk, Raeder, 20 years. Albert Speer, Baldo von Schirach, 15 years. Konstantin von Neurath, 10 years. Karl Dönitz. 3 were acquitted: Schacht von Papen. Fritzke evidenced that this was not a show trial. Göring raged at the noose, a common criminal's death, and refused it. On the night of 15 October 1946, hours before execution, he killed himself with cyanide. The vial's origin has several competing theories: hidden in luggage, in a jar of cream, or smuggled in, none definitively proven. This much is certain: he chose his own end. The executions proceeded before dawn on 16 October 1946 in the Palace of Justice Gymnasium. Master Sergeant John C. Woods used the short drop method, not Britain's long drop, designed to break the neck. Contemporary accounts record cases prolonged and rough by comparison. One by one, 13 steps, final words, prayers, slogans, silences, then the trap. The public story ends there. But the U.S. Army continued with a secret operation: disposal of bodies and effects, to prevent relic shrines, no graves, no memorials. 10 executed men and Göring were photographed, stripped of insignia, placed in plain coffins, labelled with false names. Göring assigned an American alias. Early 17 October 1946, a convoy left Nuremberg for Munich, to a crematorium under heavy guard. An empty 12th coffin rode along as misdirection. Ashes were gathered into urns with false labels, taken to the U.S. Army mortuary in Munich. After dark, the urns were carried to a small tributary of the Isar, the Wensbach, and emptied into the stream. The urns were smashed and scattered. No place of pilgrimage. Then, unmaking the symbols, uniforms stripped and burned, batons and medals destroyed, precious metal badges defaced of emblems and turned over to finance, de-sacralized down to the metal. Papers and letters were collected, some drifted into private hands over time, the small eddies of history. One dark thread remained. Robert lay absent from the 1,946 cremations, dead a year earlier by suicide. Portions of his brain were quietly sampled by Douglas Kelly, asking a question: does evil reside in mind or in brain? Results were inconclusive. Decades later, a paraffin-embedded fragment turned up among Kelly's papers, a grotesque relic. Nuremberg was an effort to impose order on chaos, to answer industrial murder with civilized law, a work monumental, necessary, and imperfect. Its principles echo in every international court. But the ending offstage was not clean. Rough hangings, a secret convoy with false coffins, ashes poured into an unnamed creek, and jewel-studded emblems scratched bare into scrap, a final act of deconsecration. The bodies were gone. What remained were their ideas what to do with them. That is not a battle for a courtroom or a gymnasium. That battle was only beginning.